been doing it while I've been talking about this for quite some time now. The one thing that never ceases to amaze me is they really are. I can't stress enough how expert these guys are when it comes to doing this. They know when to use it, know when not to use it. They know how to use it contextually. So, very seldom. I mean, whenever I encounter this in movies, this veiled symbolism, it's always well done. It's always well hidden. And there are things in there that will tip you off to this. Some of it's a little more overt than others, of course, but it really is a lot of it very, very well concealed on the celluloid. But like I said, when I was writing Royal Arch, the last chapter did delve into Masonic symbolism in film. And it was really after that last chapter in the Royal Arch that I started writing these books about the movie symbolism. I have 2 out right now, Cinema Symbolism and, of course, Cinema Symbolism 2. I have a work of fiction out also, but I'm actually working on Cinema Symbolism 3 as we speak. That's coming along very well. So, no, for me, it's always a fascinating topic talking about hidden symbolism in film.
Yeah, and it was like you were saying a little bit earlier too, is that you're explaining that there was the 3 degrees or the first 3 degrees, and that if you want to go further than that, it's up to the individual to seek out that information or to find another brother that may have know something or have some knowledge that and seek out more knowledge about what's going on. Is that how if someone in general has a thirst for knowledge? I know we were talking a little bit about Manly P. Hall, and it was said that he had gone through the first 32 degrees in a year. Is that true? Do you know that?
Yeah. I mean, that's possible. I went through them in a year. That's very possible. I don't know if he did, but I went through them in a year. So it's certainly that sounds right. I mean, I think that's all it does take is about 6 months to go through it. If you're interested in the Scottish Rite or the York Rite, they're really the 2 premier high degree bodies in the United States. You're absolutely correct. You have to go through the first 3 degrees of the Blue Lodge, entered apprentice, fellow craft master mason. After you do that, if you want to, it's completely up to the individual. It's completely voluntary. You can join the Scottish Rite or the York Rite or both. The Scottish Rite, I think, gets a little more action because the York Rite, the York Rite end body is the Knights Templar. Mm-hmm. And this is unique. This is unique to Freemasonry because in order to join the Knights Templar, you have to be a Christian,
right?
Freemason, exalted to the Holy Royal Arch. That's the only body that actually does a Masonic body that does require a religious requirement, which is unique. But it's up to you to join. It's up to you if you want to do one or the other or neither or both. You can do it, and yeah, that sounds about right. To go, I think about a year sounds about right. 6 months to a year, that's about right.
So then there's always sort of been this urban myth, or it's been called an urban legend that there's another degree beyond 32 that's 33. That the 33rd degree, which would almost kind of make sense just in general of a circle. Or a percentage, you would say that would be pretty close to almost being the whole thing, but there'd still be a little piece missing out of there, even at 33. But is there a such thing as a 33rd degree?
Yeah, there is. That's the highest degree numerically in the Scottish Rite. Anyone can get up to 32. The 33rd is by invite only. You have to be invited to join that. You cannot solicit it. So you can get up to 32, but you cannot go beyond that unless you're invited. But I would stress that in terms of significance, both philosophically, ritualistically, it's really the end of the Masonic ritual is at the 13th degree. That's really where the story ends. That's kind of like the end of your Grail quest. That's where the Masonic treasure is located. So when you're actually dealing with importance of the degree in the Scottish Rite and the York Rite, it's actually the 13th and the 7th are really the premier degree that you have to get to. After that, the rituals actually go backwards in time, and some of the degrees take place prior to the 13th degree historically. So there is a 33rd degree. It's important. It's voluntary only, but really the philosophically and religiously and spiritually, the highest degree in Freemasonry, in the high degrees, I would consider would be the 13th degree in the Scottish Rite. The Royal Arch is really the end of the story, as it were, the end of the Masonic legend. Once you get into that and you go through that, that's kind of where the Masonic story ends. That's the end of the Grail quest, as it were.
Well, I mean, I know that, there's, I mean, it would seem to me that somebody who had got to a point where they were a 32nd degree Mason, they had reached an attainment, a certain attainment at that point. Other brothers would have noticed them, or they had, I mean, realistically, a lot of the ritual practices that have been made public really are almost metaphorical for what we see in our lives. These different characters or these different storylines of having to make decisions, having to choose between this or that, and every time you make a decision, you're either passing or failing a test. So, for example, every time I'm at work and I'm a technologist, so when I'm working with technology, if I don't fix what's wrong with somebody's system, I fail the test. So because I can't fix something like that, I don't get asked to fix it. So is that kind of the same thing? I mean, somebody who has a thirst for knowledge, does it require any kind of philanthropy, or does it require what is it that somebody, maybe you can't even share it, and if you can't, that's okay, but I mean, what are the qualities that somebody would need to be even considered for a 33rd degree Mason?
Oh, it would be right. I mean, pretty much. I mean, when you go through the Blue Lodge and you get into the Scottish Rite, I mean, like I said, the York and Scottish Rites are available to anybody who's a Master Mason who's obtained the third degree. So if you're in a Blue Lodge, and you've gone through the degrees, you could join the Scottish Rite and the York Rite. Again, that's really more of a that's like an application process. But if you're in the blue, they take the Blue Lodge at its word that they've done the work for them. So if you're in the Blue Lodge and you're in good standing, then you can join the Scottish Rite. And like I said, you can go through up to the 32nd. What qualifies you to join a 33rd? It's really usually a lot of times it's philanthropy. It's like you just said, it's philanthropy work, it's charity work, it's community involvement. To a certain degree, it's probably a level of celebrity. To a certain level, like I said, if you're well known in the community. I mean, when I say celebrity, I mean, I'm not talking about like Hollywood or a movie star or anything like that, although that might play into it.
Right.
If you that wouldn't probably hurt you. But if you're active in the community, or if you're active in the Masonic Lodge, or you're active in a Masonic charity or something like that, that would probably open the door a little bit easier to get into the 33rd degree. And like I said, it's completely by invitation only. You can't solicit it. So, it's like I said, it's to a degree. It's like, for example, if you were what I mean with like celebrity, like, so for example, if you were a 32nd and you became a United States Senator, or a Supreme Court Justice or something like that, that would probably open the door to the 33rd degree, something like that. But like you said, it's philanthropy, it's a certain level of charity work, especially community involvement, especially within the charities of the Masonic Lodge or the Scottish Rite. That would open the door to the 33rd degree, I would think.
Hey, so Brandy, I know you had a question for Robert. You want to jump in there and ask him real quick, and I'll take a ride over to the chat room and see what's going on over there.
Sure. Hi, Robert. I knew of a girl that was in a group called Job's Daughters, and I looked it up, and the information I found is that it is still active for girls ages 10 to 20. And I thought that was kind of cool because you mentioned that this is for men only, but this sounds like it's a place where females can actually participate and kind of get some of that integrity building and philosophy building going on? Is that kind of the goal of it? Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that group. Hello, is anybody there?
I'm here. Yeah. Are you still here, Robert?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't hear anything.
Oh, you can't?
Uh-oh.
No.
Huh. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I think Brandy was asking you about there's groups for younger people that the Masons have for young men, and also she was referring to Job's Daughters, a group for women aged 10 to 20. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, there are Masonic auxiliary groups for young men and women. There is there's Demolay. That's the one. That's like the Masonic Boy Scouts, and then there's Rainbow for girls. Those are Masonic organizations for young people. I was never in them. Certainly, they are available. If a young person joins, they don't become a Freemason or anything. It's a separate organization. Certainly, if you do it, you could join it. I mean, I've never been involved with either one of them. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be involved with any of the women's groups. But like Demolay, I was never in. But if you join it, it wouldn't necessarily. It wouldn't necessarily get you into a Masonic lodge. You would still have to petition a Masonic lodge. So I guess it's the point I'm trying to make. But no, there are youth organizations for men and women, or for boys and girls, I should say. And the boys group is Demolay, and the women's or the girls is Rainbow. And then there's other groups, like you said, Job's Daughter. They're out there as well. There are other, organizations. I mean, if you become a Freemason and you join the Masonic Lodge, the two other organizations that people know are the Scottish and the York Rite, but there are other groups as well, such as Yed's Grotto, the Shriners. These are other Masonic organizations that you have to be a Freemason in order to get into. So there are a lot of other auxiliary groups as well. But I have heard of the other groups, the groups for the boys and girls. I never joined Demolay, but I mean I know it exists.
Well, yeah, it's interesting too, because I mean, it's sort of like we were speaking of a little bit earlier when I was saying that these rituals are basically metaphors for life, just as like the Boy Scouts. Somebody in the Boy Scouts who ends up being a real good scout may end up in the military, may end up becoming, may end up going to West Point, may end up becoming somebody. And all because he was in the Boy Scouts, and so in the same tone, somebody who's in Demolay may end up at some point becoming a Mason, and he would maybe be noticed early on, just like somebody seeking knowledge beyond those first 3 degrees, like you were saying. The person who's seeking knowledge later on, someone who's interested in in more deeper understanding, like you were, that you dove into some of these materials that are available to you as a Master Mason, that you've achieved a certain level of attainment, and now you have these materials and these books, and you have teachers that have been there before you, and that's really, the guild system is really important, isn't it? I mean, isn't that really the key? Even back before modern times, I mean, these guild systems. If you were a shoemaker, for example, and you learned how to make shoes, if somebody made a bad pair of shoes, it reflected on the whole of shoemaking. And it's the guild system, right? Pretty much.
I mean, yeah, to an extent, yeah. I mean, the one thing I would say with Masonry was this is one of the appeals was it's completely egalitarian. So I mean, you could have the King of England sitting next to the garbage collector. As long as you were morally upright, you could join, and there was no, it was completely equal. That's the one thing I would stress about it was, And this is one of the appeals with it was that someone who in society who necessarily wasn't part of the nobility could have joined, could obtain these high ranks, such as a worshipful master or something like that. It just once you were joined, and if you showed the ability, you could progress forward. That was one of the great appeals with it was that there was no distinguishing between people there was no class distinction in the Masonic Lodge. I think that was one of its great appeals.
Yeah, that is one of the great appeals, and and so here's what I would really like to just ask you, just in case there's people out there that may consider that they might want to like to go down to their local lodge. I mean, what does somebody do? Because I mean, I've seen these bumper stickers that say, hey, to be one, ask one. So, and it's it's pretty well known that if you want to be a member, I mean, what do? You just go down to the nearest hall, and I mean, is it like joining a union, or I mean, what's it like for somebody who's never even been to a
right.
Masonic?
Right. If you wanted to join, there's two routes you could go that neither one is difficult. Number one is if you know someone like I did who is a Freemason, ask them. If you have someone who's a friend of yours or a buddy of yours who is a Freemason, ask them if you can join to get you a petition. If they're your friends and they like you, they should have no problem with it. This is how I joined. Back in 1996, after I had gotten out of college, I'd already graduated college, and this was before I went to law school. I was having dinner with my mother and father, and with them was a mutual friend, and he was a Mason. He wore the ring, the lapel pin, all that. And that's how I knew he was. And I asked him, I said, hey, this is something, I see you're a Freemason. He said, yeah. I said, this is something I've always been interested in. I want to join. Can you help me? He said, yeah, sure. I mean, it's, should be a welcome, it was welcome. He said, I'll get you the petition, I'll be in touch with you in the next couple of weeks, stand by. Sure enough, the petition came in the mail. I filled it out, mailed it in, and, went through the, process. And the next thing I knew, I was standing up at the Grand Lodge, about ready to go through the entered apprentice ritual. So that's one way. The other way would be if you do not know anyone who is a Freemason, then what you should do is my recommendation there would be is depending on what state you're in, go online and locate the Grand Lodge of your state. Each state has a Grand Lodge. So I'm in the state of Maryland, so I would seek out the Grand Lodge of Maryland. So if you're in Pennsylvania or New York, find the Grand Lodge of your respective state. They will have a website. They will invariably have a phone number, and call them. Call them during the weekday and say, hey, my name is, so-and-so. I'm interested in joining a Masonic Lodge. I don't know any Freemasons personally. Can you help me? Most likely, if they are, what they should do is they will take your address and they will find a lodge that is close to where you live. And they will put you in contact with someone in that lodge, most likely the secretary of that local Blue Lodge. They will put you in contact with either via phone or via email, where you can talk to this person and say, hey, I talked to the Grand Lodge. They put me in contact with you. I'd like to become a Freemason. Can you help me? And what they should do is they will get you a petition and they will set up a committee to interview you, to get to know you a little bit better. And you can take it from there. So the route to joining would be, I would say, is, number one is if you know someone or if you're friendly with someone, even if they're just an acquaintance, start with them. That would be my first recommendation. If you don't know anybody, go to the Grand Lodge of your state. And if they have a phone number, I would say call that. If they only have an email, then you can do that. But if they have a phone number, call the number. And like I said, just do it during a weekday, during the business operating hours, and just talk to them and just say, hey, my name is so-and-so. I'm interested in becoming a Freemason. What do I need to do? I don't know anybody personally. Can you help me? And they should put you in contact with a local lodge. I've helped people with that route before. So those would be the two ways I would say if you're interested in becoming a Freemason, those would be the two easiest routes to go down.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there it is. If you want to check it out and you would like to investigate a little bit further for your own self and see what things are really about and without all the demonization that's been going on for all these years. Hey, you know what I was curious about? Just as a side note, has there been an upswing in membership over, say, the past decade or so? Or how's membership just in general? Has it gone up, or is it platitude?
Yeah, it depends on the location. I've noticed an increase in it, but some areas say it's gone down a little bit, or it's staying the same. I think in Maryland it's definitely on the rise. I think it's on the rise all around. But I think a lot of that has to do with the more interest in the esoteric side of things of Masonry. But I have heard in some areas that it's kind of stagnant or even going down. But where I've been, it seems to be on the rise. I've definitely noticed, at least in my lodge, that there definitely seems to be a lot of interest in people joining it.
Well, maybe we're coming up on the break here in about 3 minutes, so maybe on the other side we can get into a little bit more of the esoteric information. My name's Jimmy. That is Robert W. Sullivan right there, ladies and gentlemen. Robert, tell them where they can find your books, and tell them where they can get a hold of you if they would like to get you to come have a conversation.
Yeah, again, thank you for having me on Into the Microcosm. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. My website is my name. My name is Robert W. Sullivan IV. So my website is robertwsullivan.iv.com. There are links there to purchase the books. They're in the print and ebook form. Links to follow me on social media, the Facebook fan page, a Twitter feed. I have a YouTube channel. Come along and follow. These sites are routinely updated by me. Again, the site is www.robertwsullivan.iv.com. Again, it's updated with events, radio shows such as this that I'm going to be on. It has my biography, links to purchase the books. Again, links to my social media, www.robertwsullivan.iv.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, Brandy, how are we looking over there in the chat room? Has anybody else joined us over there? I can't see anything. I got these. I don't have my sunglasses on, and these lights are blinding me. I can't see what's going on over there in the chat. What's going on over there?
That's okay. We've had a few people pop in. A couple of visitors. One of them is shy, and there's just too sweet. Brett's still in there, and who else is in there? Oh, Naysay joined us, and Daryl. Hey, Daryl joined us.
There's the music. We're out. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. We'll shout you guys out when we come back.
You still there? Yeah. I go for about another hour or so. That works for you?
Hang on.
Yeah.
Suffering from the sheeple virus. Symptoms include the inability to think for oneself, the attention span of a goldfish, and a strong belief in government and...
Okay, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I can go for about another hour or so, if that's good for you.
Yeah, that sounds good. It sounds great, man. Do you want to try to get into some of the more esoteric information? Start jumping in, and your new book too. Aren't you working on?
However you want to do it. And just so you know, I don't mind taking questions from the chat room at all, but I cannot hear Brandy at all.
You can't hear her? I wonder why. That's weird.
No, I can't hear her at all.
I'm thinking.
But I don't mind doing it. But if she reads it to you, you're gonna have to repeat it back to me or something.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, he can't hear you at all, Brandy, for some reason. I don't know why.
I'm not on Zoom, so I don't know if that's why.
Well, I don't know. You're going through my system, though. He should be able to hear you. I don't know why he can't. Maybe I don't have it turned up loud enough. Hold on. Let me see. Nah, I mean, there's no reason for it. Say something now, Brandy.
That's okay. Mostly, probably he's going to share stuff that
I can't hear anything.
No, he can't
hear me.
No, but I can, and so can the audience. So for some.
I can hear you fine.
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
hear you fine, Jimmy. I just can't hear her.
No problem. Well, so Brandy, if there's questions in the chat, just you read them out, and I'll when we come back, I'll say something on the air. Some questions for Robert in the chat. Blah blah blah. And then
Okay.
if you get any, just let me know. I don't have that little window thing open over here to talk, to chat. Let me open that thing up. Okay, so if you get a question, just shoot me a 1 over here in the Skype chat box, and then I'll let Rob know. And you just tell me. I'll bring you in. You read the question, and when we come back, we'll go back to the chat room. Shout it out.
Okay.
All right, hang on a second. Such a pain. All right, where is it?
Just so you know, I've got pounding rain on my house. So if you hear funny noise, that's what it is. We've got quite a storm.
I got issues, man. Hang on. I got to go back. I got to close this chat window. So let me close this thing. Hang on. Okay, because I can't add the call. Okay, Rob, when we come back, it's going to be, the mics are hot, so just so you know. Here we go. I'm coming back. We're going back.
I won't say anything.
Here we go.
Drifting away in the darkness. Echo, echo. Echo, echo. I got the devil in my bloodstream, and I'm so high, but it just won't go away. With too much stress, my hands keep shaking, death knocking on my chest. Can't let it rest. Flashing lights down the road. Feel like there's nothing here left that can save my soul. Hope they playing my songs when I'm dead and I'm gone, cause I don't know if I'ma make it home. So now I'm just driving around the city with my head down.
My name's Jimmy. You're tapped into the Truth Frequency on Truth Frequency Radio. Right here, tfrlive.com/chat is the interactive chat room. If you want to join us over there, you can. What we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is